Okay. Guys, please switch off your audios and the videos because that might create some disturbance. So I would request you all to please switch off your audio and video because we should be audible to everyone. Yeah, cool. So finally, thank you, Dr. Naseer Khan, first of all, for joining us in. And it is really a great pleasure to welcome you on board. And just to tell you all in brief what Naseer Khan is, I'm not gonna be formal out here, but just to let you know, since we all know about anything for UK in terms of medicine, be it PLAB or anything, Dr. Naseer Khan is the first person, is the go-to person who can never say no to anything. He will just explain everything to you, and that too in such a manner that you don't need to ask anyone else after that. So he's someone who is always ready to help, and it's actually our honor to have him with us. And you all are lucky to have him. So, if Dr. Naseer Khan, you want to say something about it, thank you so much, first of all.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for the kind words. I try to do what I can. I don't know the answer to everything, but I try to answer whatever I can. And
Mhm.
thank you for this session today. I hope it helps people.
For sure, for sure. So, guys, I would again want to request everyone to please switch off the audios and the cameras because it is important for everyone to listen what is relevant and necessary. Let us just have a couple of minutes so that everyone can join in.
Yeah, I think they're all mute now.
Yeah, cool. So I'm just gonna tell you some rules to everyone. First of all, please maintain the discipline. Don't switch on your mics or cameras until and unless it is necessary. Once we open the Q&A section, we'll ask you to open that. Also, whenever you have any doubt or anything, just let us know in the chat box. It's there, I guess you can see. So yeah, I'm just writing a message. If you can just see, just let me know. Yeah, cool. So yeah, that is the chat box. And yeah, so these were some basic things, and I'm just gonna give you the basic outline as to how we're gonna proceed with it. First of all, we'll talk about the overview as to what UK holds and what all opportunities are there in UK. And then after that, we'll start going on in the details. For example, how to prepare for, let's say, PLAB-1, PLAB-2. And if we have any idea about MRCP as well, what should be the basic timeline as to when and how you should give which exam, which step. Then what is the application process and what about the exam centers and what are the electives and how you can improve your CV. And after that, very important question, which is the visa application, because there are many problems and many things which everyone don't know about how to apply for the visa and what kind of structure UK has for the jobs. Like many students have this doubt, particularly like there are not enough jobs in UK. So we'll talk about that in detail. What about the finances and expenditure, like how much one has to spend for the complete journey and by what time they would be getting the sufficient salaries so that they can maintain their living as well. After that, we're going to talk about the GP training and the residency program and the basic structural difference between PLAB and MRCP and the salary, like what kind of salary structure UK has. After that, we'll have a small discussion about the UK versus USMLE, because that is the hot topic every time. And many students, last time also, 2 weeks back, we hold the seminar. And most of the students are common in the USMLE webinar as well and in the PLAB-1 too. So they want to know the concrete differences so that they should focus on the one particularly. After that, we have some miscellaneous questions from many of the applicants as to what is the treatment UK people do with the IMGs, and if they face any problems in terms of PLAB-1 and PLAB-2. For how like for FY1 and FY2, many myths are there. So we're gonna burst everything today. So just stay tuned. We're gonna take you to the journey to UK, and no better person than Dr. Naseer Khan can help you for that. So you can just have a couple of minutes and let them know about the overview as to what we are going to do today.
Do you want me to talk about the overview?
Yeah, you can just give an overview about the
Sure.
webinar, like what do you think about it and how it can actually help and benefit the students out here.
I think you've pretty much covered everything. I don't think I need to add anything at all. Everything that we'll talk about, you've already mentioned. But if anyone has any other questions as well, I'm happy to answer that. Siddharth, I see your message. That's nice of you. Thank you. Um, but I think you've covered everything. If anyone has any other query, I'll be here.
Okay. Very good. For the Q&A section, what we're going to do is, after every segment, we'll take the questions if the students have. So we'll keep on taking the questions in between, but after that particular segment. So guys, please try to maintain this. Whenever we are talking about any particular thing, make sure to ask the relevant question to that particular topic. Okay, so that is how we're going to complete our session today. So without wasting further more time, let's directly get onto the PLAB overview as to what are the basic eligibility criteria and what are the requirements for PLAB-1, PLAB-2, and what are the basic things about PLAB in general.
Sure. So let's talk about the eligibility criteria, and the audience is free to take notes. So I would advise you to keep a paper and pen with yourself. So for the eligibility criteria, you need to be a graduate. So you need to pass your medical school, which means if you've got a pre-graduate internship as it is in India, you need to complete that and you need to graduate. You also need to pass your English language test, which can be IELTS or OET. And that is it. That's all you need. So you need your MBBS and you need
Mhm.
an English language test, which can be IELTS or OET.
Okay, so most of the time students have the question as to can they appear for PLAB-1 in between, like during their MBBS years?
No, they cannot because MBBS is an eligibility criteria. So you need to complete your MBBS, including your
Okay.
pre-graduate internship, before you can appear
Okay.
in PLAB 1.
So during their internship time, are they eligible or they have to complete the internship as well?
They need to complete the internship as well if it's a pre-graduate internship, as it is in
Okay.
India. But in
Okay.
other countries, like in Pakistan and in other countries as well, internship can be postgraduate. In that case,
Okay.
like I took my PLAB 1 during my internship because it was a postgraduate internship, which means the internship was after I got my degree.
Okay. So if I have to talk about the IELTS in particular, so
Hmm.
is it any like basic or fixed timeline for IELTS as well, or they can give IELTS whenever they want, or is there any like expiry for like IELTS for how long it is valid? The score of the IELTS are valid.
Sure. So it's valid for 2 years, and you can take IELTS anytime. So you can take IELTS even during your MBBS. You can take it during your pre or postgraduate internship. So I suppose it's best to make a roadmap before you graduate to know when you need to take your exams. Um, it's best to take your PLAB 1 as soon as you can after graduation. So it's best to take IELTS just before you graduate.
Okay, so that you have that buffer with you.
Hmm.
Okay, very good. So, okay, just to add on to the PLAB question again, how many attempts of PLAB are there? Is it any fixed number?
So there are 4 attempts each for PLAB-1 and for PLAB-2.
Okay,
Um, but there are examples of people who, under special circumstances, have been granted additional attempts by the GMC, but you have to write to them and explain to them why you need another attempt. But it's a very easy exam, and you should be able to pass it in your first attempt. And if for some reason you don't make it, you should be able to pass it in your second attempt for sure.
okay. So there is actually no problem as to if someone in the worst case scenario, if that person is not able to make it in the first attempt, they can do it in the second attempt as well.
Yeah, they can take it up to 4 times.
Okay, so does it make any difference in terms of job later on?
No, no one cares about it.
Okay, very good. So nothing to worry about then. Uh,
Not at all.
One more question I have with regard to this only. Is there any age limit for PLAB exam? Like one should be of any particular age or the upper limit or anything?
Not at all, no.
Okay. And what if someone has graduated, for example, 4 5 years back? Can they give PLAB again, like
Hmm.
after the gap?
Yes, they can. There is no limit in that.
Okay,
And I'll just answer a few questions from the chat box as well.
sure.
Someone's asking if the MBBS grades matter. No, they don't. No one cares about your MBBS grades. No one cares if you failed an exam in MBBS. No one cares if you have a supply.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
these things don't matter at all.
Okay, so I would just ask uh, the students if they have any doubt about the overview till now. You must.
Yes. And I'll keep answering the question. So, okay, a lot of questions now. So someone is asking if IELTS Academic is valid for visa. So I guess we'll talk about visa later
We'll,
on as well.
true.
But
Also, we are going to talk about the IELTS as well in particular. So and the visa also. So
sure,
just overview. I guess let's move on to the next segment then.
sure.
Okay, but one question I have, yeah, from the overview point of view. Actually, there are many universities out there which aren't recognized. So what is the basic, as to say, prerequisite for the NHS or PLAB, like where that university should be listed if one has to check before starting on with the journey?
Yeah, so if you go to the GMC website or if you go to Google and write list of acceptable medical schools or list of acceptable universities accepted by the
Hmm.
GMC, you'll find an official link on the GMC website.
Okay,
And it has a few links. The main one is the World Medical Directory. So you need to check if your school is there. If it is not listed as a recognized school, then you'll need
hmm,
to get a lot of paperwork done to get your school recognized. And a
okay,
lot of people, especially from India, have had to do this. They've had to get their schools recognized. And I know a lot of people who've done this. So if it's not recognized, it will be a lot of paperwork. The earlier you start, the better. Get in touch with people who have done this. You can easily find them on the Facebook groups.
so you're talking about the Indian medical graduates, right? Those who studying in India, they also find some difficulty with that.
Um, I know a lot of people from India who face this, but yeah, people from all over the world can face this problem.
Okay, so what you're trying to say is if the university is in the World Directory of Medical Schools, one is good
Yeah,
to go.
yeah,
Fair enough. So, but still, if the university is not listed there, no need to lose hope. You can still get it done.
yeah.
Okay, cool. So let's move on to the preparation part. PLAB, as you already told, has two parts, PLAB 1 and PLAB 2. So to talk about the PLAB 1, what are the basic resources one should follow? Like how long it takes and how doable is that?
So PLAB-1 is still the easiest exams in the world. You just need to go through a few question banks. So any postgraduate exam after you graduate, studying for it will be different from how you studied for any exams during med school. So in med school, we go through a lot of textbooks, but after that, when you study for PLAB-1, you just have to go through question banks. You have to read the questions, read the answer, and then the explanation underneath.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of popular question banks. Most people these days are going for PLABable, which is really good reviews. But there are a
Okay.
lot of other good question banks as well, so you can go through them.
Okay.
And
So, are there any
yeah,
top-rated sources apart from Plabable?
uh, so no, PLABable is the best
Okay.
source, but there are a lot of free question banks, a lot of free study material on Facebook groups. You need to join Facebook groups. There's this big PLAB group. I think it has over 200,000 members. So it's the
Okay.
biggest PLAB group, and you can find most of the study material for free there. And you also asked how
Okay.
long it takes.
Okay.
Um, Depends on how much time you give, but I know people who've passed PLAB with just 2 weeks of prep as well. But to give yourself a proper chance, give yourself at least 3, 4 months.
Okay. So, if I have to just ask on in the same regard, uh, what all are the subjects that are being asked in PLAB 1?
Hmm. So most of PLAB-1 is based on clinical medicine, uh,
Okay.
and the other parts also include other clinical subjects like peds, gynae, surgery, and a bit of pharmacology, a bit of anatomy, but that's it.
Okay. Then for PLAB 2, how is it?
So PLAB-2 is an OSCE-based exam, which means you just have OSCE stations, 18 stations. It
Okay.
does not test your clinical knowledge at all.
Okay.
It tests your communication, your interpersonal skills, your ethics, how you approach the patient, but not really your clinical knowledge.
Okay. Very good. So, just to add on here, what is the basic, like the minimum bands for the IELTS to appear for PLAB 1?
So you need to have at least 7 in each of the 4 sections, which are reading, listening, writing, and speaking, and an
Okay.
overall score of 7.5.
Okay. So, one more question which I have here is, if let's say someone has cleared the IELTS, the
Hmm.
gotten the score above the minimum bands, and they have
Hmm.
appeared for PLAB 1. So, is it only the prerequisite for PLAB 1 or for PLAB 2 as well?
So the prerequisite for PLAB-2 is only PLAB-1, and that is it.
Okay. Okay. So, if one has passed the IELTS, so it doesn't matter if it expires after just after the PLAB 1 also. So, there's nothing to worry about that.
That's right. You only need to have your PLAB-1 valid for your PLAB-2, and PLAB-1 is valid for 2 years.
Okay, so again, okay, IELTS is also valid for 2 years, and again, then PLAB 1 is valid for 2 years.
Yes, and PLAB-2 is also valid for 2 years.
Okay, fair enough, fair enough. So, just to ask about the sources for PLAB 2,
Hmm.
how one should prepare for that?
So PLAB-2 is a very different exam from any other exam that you would have taken before this.
Mm-hmm.
So the best thing to do is to go to an academy to study for PLAB-2. And there are a lot of good academies in the UK.
Okay,
Um, yeah. I can name them if you want. But there are a lot of good academies of laughter.
okay, so not necessarily, but what I want to ask is, are such academies available in other countries as well? For example, if one doesn't want to come to UK, or any person problem they might have.
So a lot of these academies do do visit other countries,
Okay.
but their courses are not available internationally all the time. Like
Okay.
a lot of these academies visit India and Pakistan, but
Okay.
these are limited courses in India and Pakistan. There is an academy which runs partly in Pakistan as well.
Mhm.
But I think for this exam, my advice is to go to the UK and go take the academy course in the UK
Okay.
because you need to expose yourself to the British culture for this exam because it tests your approach more than anything else. And it's
Hmm.
very difficult to understand what approach you need to have unless you expose yourself to the British culture.
Okay. So very good. I guess we have covered the resources part pretty much well. But still, if anyone has any particular doubt related to this, then you can ask here.
Someone's
Uh,
asking about online courses for PLAB-2. So yes, you can take online courses for PLAB-2, especially right now. To be honest, right now they're not even taking PLAB-2. But I am not a big fan of online courses because, as I said, you need to expose yourself to the British culture. You need to live in the UK and see how people talk to each other, how people deal with each other. And if you're taking an online course, you won't expose yourself to that culture. So I think it's best to take the exam, to take the course in the UK.
so, if according to you, I guess PLAB 2 is not just about the, as you already said, it's just not about the clinical knowledge. It's about the structure that you have to get into.
Hmm.
Okay, so it is interpersonal skills as well that matters.
Hmm.
Very good. So, guys, you can let us know if you are going too fast or too slow, so we can just maintain the pace.
Someone's asking about the expenses of the academy. So
We'll come back
that,
to that in
sure.
expenses part if you want. If you want, just you can just mention here as well.
It costs about 600 to £1,000 for the PLAB-2 course,
And how long is it in general?
2 to 3 weeks.
2 to 3 weeks. Fair enough. Guys, if you're understanding everything, just let us know.
You're
Just
getting a lot
give
of
us a thumbs
questions,
up.
which is good.
Come again.
You're receiving a lot of questions in the chat box, which is good.
I told you, right? We have an like active audience.
Yeah. Good.
Uh, Saad is asking about the name of the academic. See, it's not good to name any academy here, but still, for your reference, we'll let you know in the comment section down below because we are not actually promoting anyone or demoting anyone. So it's better to just keep it to ourselves here. Free PLAB resource site. So this, I guess, you can answer.
Facebook. Facebook is the best free website. Join all the
Okay.
Facebook groups.
So here you go. Actually, most of the time we don't give the required value to the free resources. We tend to go overboard with the things that we actually have to pay.
Yeah.
So right now you can get most of the information free on YouTube, even the clinical scenarios and everything also on the Facebook groups. Which I want to add is like even the Telegram groups these days. You can get almost everything for free there.
Hmm.
So coming to, I guess, one of the most important thing here is the timeline. Like
Hmm.
what should be the appropriate timeline? I know there cannot be anything perfect here, but still, what do you think on an average when one should give the IELTS, then PLAB 1 and then PLAB 2, and how long the complete process actually takes?
Hmm. Yes. So it's important to understand that you can only, as I said earlier, you can only take PLAB-1 after you graduate.
Okay.
So it's best to know in which month you're going to take your PLAB-1. It's important to make a roadmap. So let's say, is is there a particular month in which most
Sorry,
people
sorry.
graduate in India?
Your voice is breaking
There
as
is
well.
in Pakistan. So let's say, is it okay? Uh, your voice is breaking as well. Just a bit, but I can hear you.
Yeah, yeah. Carry on. Sorry.
So is there a particular month in which most people graduate or finish medical school in the UK? Or can it be generally by the mid of the year? Siddharth is saying. Okay. So let's say that you're graduating, or someone's saying December as well. So let's
No,
say
it
that you're
depends. It
graduating
depends.
in
There are
July.
actually two curriculums. So some people finish
Okay.
it in June, July, and some in
Yeah.
December, January. But it
Okay.
doesn't matter actually because we have to come back to India, give our MCA exam, and then we
Hmm.
start with our internship.
Okay. So if you're graduating in July, it's best to target the November PLAB-1. PLAB-1 is held 4 times in a year: March, June, September, and November. but it's held internationally in India and Pakistan in March and November. Recently, they've opened a few June and September seats as well internationally. So anyway, let's say you're graduating in July. So it's best to take your IELTS just before graduation. So maybe in May, June, April, and take your target PLAB-1 in November. So start graduation.
Mhm.
And after that, it depends on whether you're doing your internship or not. So if you've got a pre-graduate internship, then you're already done with your internship. Then you don't need to worry about it, and then you can start planning for your PLAB-2, which should take 6 to 8 months and take PLAB-2. But if you're in a country like Pakistan, where you have postgraduate internship, then you need to complete your internship before you can think about PLAB-2, because you can't have a break in your internship. So you should not go to the UK during your internship, because that will mean that you have a month or two break during your internship. I hope that makes sense.
Sure, sure. Okay, so just to let you know, to give IELTS couple of months before you graduate, and then once you
Yeah,
start on with your internship, you can give PLAB 1
yeah, yeah.
and wait till it ends, and then you can target the PLAB 2.
Yes, for postgraduate internships, yes.
Okay, and PLAB 2 is mostly in UK, right? It's only in UK, I guess, only in Manchester.
Yes, PLAB-2 is only in the UK, in Manchester, and now in London as well.
Okay, and PLAB 1 is in most of the countries, so there are centers for PLAB 1.
In a lot of countries, yes.
Okay, so talking about the timeline here is uh, any basic difference if you know in between IELTS and OET? I know you have not appeared for OET, but still, if you have any idea about that.
Sure. So let's talk about the similarities first. So these are both English language tests. They're both good for nearly everything. So if you take OET, you don't need to take IELTS. If you take IELTS, you don't need to take OET.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Apart from that, they both have four sections: listening, reading, writing, and speaking.
Okay.
The only difference is that OET is designed specially for health professionals. So it gives you tasks related to your work as a doctor. So that might make things easier for you, because then you would have to use terminologies which you already use at work,
Mm-hmm.
like when talking to patients or taking their history. So
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people find OET to be easier for this reason.
Okay.
Um, but I personally feel that IELTS is not difficult at all. As long as you can communicate with others without making grammatical mistakes, you'll pass your IELTS.
What I have heard personally is the IELTS people think and perceive IELTS as IELTS is more difficult than PLAB 1.
I guess it depends on. I mean, if you struggle with English, then yes, it will be difficult.
Yeah.
And I found IELTS to be very easy. Having said that,
Mm-hmm.
I think my English is just only average. I can communicate with others, and that's it. I did not go to a school where everyone used to talk in English. I learned my English from watching Cartoon Network and cricket commentary and TV
Yeah,
shows and movies.
I can relate to that. So to talk about IELTS, is there any need of coaching or any course for IELTS, or as you just said, like free resources, like normal things that interest you can actually help you with the IELTS only?
So for IELTS, there's a book series called IELTS IELTS English Cambridge book series.
Okay,
That is all you need. You don't need anything else for IELTS.
the set of 11 books or something.
Yeah, I think now they're 12 or 13, maybe even
Okay,
14. Yeah,
okay. So that's pretty much it. Like you don't need anything
that's it.
else.
No,
Fair enough. And IELTS you can give round the year, right? There is no particular time or anything.
that's right.
Okay, so yeah, now I guess as we have discussed IELTS, we should have many questions.
Yeah, someone's asking about OET resources. So for OET, there's no set of books, but people use a lot of online. Firstly, people use a lot of WhatsApp and Facebook groups. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Apart from that, if you go online, if you read people's reviews, so people recommend a few academies for OET, not for everything, but just for the writing. You can ask people to review your writing essays, which is pretty expensive as well, by the way. And OET itself is a bit more expensive than IELTS. So IELTS costs about 150 to 200 British pounds, which I guess is close to, in India, it costs about 1300, 13,000, I guess,
Yeah.
13,000 Indian rupees. Uh, and OET is double that. So OET is somewhere close to 350 and 400 pounds,
Hmm.
and about, I think, 30,000 Indian rupees.
So, is there any relevance of from the proficiency exam point of view for the visa? Like, do they give any special reference to those who clear IELTS or OET, or it's completely same?
It's completely the same.
Okay.
A
So
lot of people asking which books I mentioned. So they were these Cambridge book series, and you can find them in any local book market.
they are even the PDFs, I guess, right?
Yeah, but I don't know if you're getting those PDFs legally or pirated. It's best to get them legally from your
We
local
people are very
bookstore.
good in that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this question is something I guess you should answer, the difference between the academics and UKV.
Yes. Uh, Things keep changing, so keep an eye on the official website for this. But as for now, you don't need to take UKVI. You just need to take IELTS Academic. Until recently, you needed to take UKVI for your Tier 2 visa, but at present, they've abolished this, so you don't need UKVI anymore for now. But things keep changing, so keep an eye on. The best way to stay updated is Facebook groups, so stay active there.
Okay, so that's pretty much it for the language exam, I guess. Now moving to the most interesting part for me at least, the electives and the CV. So what all things one should do differently, or you as a GP in UK now, what do you think, like what one should have done in the medical school days that will actually help the students for their post graduation?
Sure. Um, Study hard, focus on your MBBS, become good doctors. And if you have extra time, then enjoy it. Watch TV shows, movies, go out, have fun. Don't worry too much about other things. Seriously. And about working on other things, depends on what your goals are in the future. A lot depends on which specialty you're interested in. So if you're interested in a competitive specialty like a surgical specialty, then you can think about working on it. But if it's any non-surgical field, then you don't need to worry about it. Um, Another advice is to not do anything for your CV, but do it out of your own interest. For example, a lot of people like research work, so you can go for that. You can think about audits as well. You can think about any extracurricular activity. And anything that you do. If you're teaching something to your friends before class tests, like most of us do, you can even add that to your CV as
Okay.
as non-professional teaching experience.
Hmm.
Um, if you play any sports, you can add that to your CV. If you have got good IT skills, if you've got an Instagram page or you do something on your YouTube, add all of that to your CV. Everything counts.
Okay, so when you've already mentioned about the YouTube, you can check out Naseer's Journey YouTube page as well, also the Insta page, and you'll really like and you'll get some more information, in-depth information actually. Talking about the courses and the CV stuff. So, are there any courses that actually help someone build their CV in a better way, like online courses or anything,
So you need to
summer
be
courses?
Sorry, yes. So you need to be very target specific here. You need to know why you're doing a course. Again, if you, let's say, you know, from day one that you're interested in neurosurgery, then do any course that you can find for neurosurgery. But if you're interested in, let's say, pediatrics, then a neurosurgical course will not help you. So if you know what you want, then you can do courses related to that. But if you don't know what you want, then you can do any course which you find interesting, and you would be
Okay.
doing that because you find it interesting and not for your CV. Um,
Okay.
and I won't talk about the US, but as far as the UK is concerned, even if you have nothing before your MBBS or during
Mm-hmm.
your MBBS, it doesn't matter. You can get into any training program
Okay.
by working hard on your CV once you come to the UK.
Okay. So you shouldn't do anything just for the sake of CV, right? As long as
No,
anything interests you, you should go ahead with it.
yeah,
I can see one
yes.
question here is Khushbu is asking, how does social media help in building up CV?
Because how does it work? So you would mention on your CV that you've got an Instagram channel or whatever it is, and people in the UK pay attention to this. So they see that you're a normal human being, you've got interest outside of medicine, and it makes a good impression for your employer to know that you're normal, that you have interests outside of medicine as well.
So I guess both these things have helped you immensely, right?
I guess they have, yeah.
Okay, so we have just mentioned the link of your Instagram page
Thank
and
you.
your YouTube
Yeah,
channel
thank you.
both. So everyone can just go ahead and give a big shout out to Dr. Naseer Khan. Uh,
Thank you. Thanks.
anything else? Anything else, guys, about the resume and the CV?
So we didn't really talk about electives or as they're
Ah, I'm
called
sorry.
clinical attachments in the UK.
Yeah.
So again, it you don't need to have clinical attachments.
Mhm.
So I would not tell anyone to do it unless you want to. It does help in giving you exposure to the British culture, to uh, the British healthcare system as well. So it does help in that way. It tells you how things run
Okay.
in the UK. But if it's very expensive for you and if you can't financially afford it, don't worry about it. I never did any clinical attachments. Another thing is when you come to the UK for your PLAB-2 exam, you will have a lot of time. That is the best time to do a clinical attachment. So, having said that, if finances are not an issue for you and if you want to go to the UK and do an attachment, go for it.
Okay, but is it like if someone can do the shadowing or the externship in their own countries, do they help, or it has to be in the UK system only?
It should be in the UK.
Okay, makes sense. So we have covered, I guess, electives and CV both here, right?
Yes, and someone's asking if clinical attachments are needed for PLAB. No, they are not.
Okay. Mm, after PLAB 2 journey,
Um, I don't understand the question, to be honest.
cyber, you can write your question properly so that you can get the relevant answer for that. Yeah, someone is asking, do courses from Coursera hold validation?
Uh, I honestly don't know what Coursera is.
So you have got the answer then.
Sorry about that.
No
But
issue.
any course that you do from anywhere will add to your CV, even if it's just an online course. I've done a lot of
Mhm.
online courses.
Now the pandemic is going on, so many courses are there these days which are
Hmm,
online only.
hmm,
Yeah, so let's just move on to the
sure.
most important point for the people, those who belong to, those who are from the South Asian countries, especially the visa processing.
Hmm.
So I guess no other person is better than you to explain this. How to build a strong visa application in which you have the minimal chances of the rejection.
Yeah. So this is an interesting topic, and I'll just share a very short story.
Sure.
When I applied for my visa to the UK, I knew nothing about visa applications because I had never traveled abroad and no one from my family had. And I made a lot of mistakes in my visa application, which is why my visa
Mhm.
application was refused. And then I
Okay.
waited for, I think, a year, and then I applied again and it was rejected again. And then I again waited for a year. And this time I studied a lot, took help and guidance from a lot of people. And then I did get my visa. So it took me 2 years. I waited 2 years just to get my
Okay.
visa. And when I did, I wanted to share this with others. And this is why I started this whole career guidance thing. That this was my only intention, to make sure that no one else goes through visa rejections. Now, there are a lot of things which you need to be careful about in your visa application. Number one, you need to be honest. You need to be clear about what you're saying. You need to have documentary evidence of everything. For example, if you're saying that you work in your home country and you're getting 30,000 rupees per month, then you need to attach documents to prove that you're getting 30,000 in your bank account every month with pay slips, your bank statement. Basically, you just need evidence for everything to back it up. Um, there are a lot of other things which you need to be careful about. You basically need to do a lot of hard work. I can't cover everything here, but you
Yeah.
need to, visa is the only difficult part, and you need to do a lot of homework and a lot of hard work for this. Everything's
Okay.
available for free on a lot of blogs, not just mine. There are a lot of other blogs as well. Road to UK is a really good one. Omer's Guidelines is a good one. The Savvy IMG is another good one. Go through all of these. You'll find a lot of good guidance.
Okay. So very good. The most important point here is what you've already mentioned is you have to be honest with your application. Don't just blabber anything out there so that you're not able to defend it later on.
That's right.
Okay. So that's all we have. So yeah, you only need visa just for the PLAB 2, right? So before PLAB 2, no need to worry about visa, but you can still work upon your visa application.
That's absolutely right. So I've got a few things written down, and I'm reading this from my website.
Mhm.
So I've written down that you need to be honest, you need to provide documentary evidence for everything, you need to attach a list of documents, you need to keep your story simple enough for the visa officer to understand what you're saying. You need to write details of your stay, where you'll stay. Employment back home is very important because it counts as a strong tie. They can see that you're working in India or Pakistan, and they know that if you're working back home, they know that you will come back because you've got a job in India or Pakistan. So employment is very important. You need to show that you've got enough money for the trip. Uh,
Mhm.
you need to write a good cover letter. You can find guidance for that on all of these blogs that I've mentioned. You need to plan things. You need to make early reservations for your hotel, airline tickets. And the last thing is be ready to work hard. Visa will take a lot of hard work.
So again, one very important point which you've just mentioned here is you have to show strong ties with your home country. It's most of the time
Yeah,
people get it opposite and they end up getting the
yeah,
rejection.
yeah.
They try
Yeah,
to prove the visa counselor that they want to go to the destination country more than they want to live in their own.
that's right.
Yeah, so just
Yes,
be sure with that that you have to come back to your own country and don't just show and tell them that you care about their country more than yours.
that's right.
uh okay, so anyone has any particular question with the visa application?
So I see a lot of people are asking a lot of questions, but um, we're not answering them because they're not relevant to the topic. We'll answer all the questions, but if you ask questions relevant to the topic, then it will become
Now they
easier,
have
I
started with
suppose.
the MRCP and UKMLE. We have those slots later on, but I just
We'll
don't
talk
want to
about that.
deviate from the structure. So guys, if you have any question regarding the visa application, because don't just think like PLAB 1 or PLAB 2 are the only things that matter. Visa again is a very important point which you should focus on from the early days.
Yes,
Yeah, you also mentioned like, did you go to any agency or anything for the visa?
I did. Um, After my first visa application is refused, I went to all of these visa agencies or consultants, and they all said, your case is too complicated. You'll never get a visa. Get used to life in Pakistan. You're never leaving.
So what
So
is the like? What was their point? when they say like your case is complicated. So just because of the two rejections, they meant that?
Back then, I think I had only one rejection. The problem, I think, was that they did not understand anything. So I already knew more than they did. They did not even, most of them, except for one, all of them did not even know what PLAB was. So they thought that I was trying to go to the UK to study somehow. They did not really understand it. And I don't blame them because most people who are going abroad are going abroad to study. So they didn't know enough.
Mm-hmm. Well, that makes sense.
So
So
someone's asking for the cost of visa. The visa itself costs, uh, I think it costs about, back then it was, I think, 1 lakh Pakistani rupees, which is 50,000 Indian rupees. Uh,
this is not the official amount because when I went for the tourist visa, it was I guess 87 pounds or something.
so how much is 87 pounds in Indian rupees?
87 pounds is
That's
somewhere around 9,000 rupees.
9,000 rupees. Okay.
So
But
for you,
that's the
yeah, for you
tourist
it might be
visa.
around 12,000, 13,000 rupees for you, I guess.
Actually, I think you're right. I
Yeah.
think you're right. I honestly don't remember, but this is something that I can check. I'll answer this in a minute.
Okay, sure, sure, sure. Uh, yeah, Jayanti, Dr. Naseer has already answered about this. You should apply for your visa after the PLAB one, and you should start preparing your visa applications before that only. Like even before the PLAB one, you can start working on your visa application. How to get the visa in Pakistan? Dr. Naseer has already told you. You just have to work on the application part. No need to go to any agency because they'll also do the same thing that you are gonna do.
Yes, the visa fees, as you're right, it varies from 100 to 200 pounds, which is the same as what you were mentioning.
Yeah. Someone is asking, is it easier to get visa if any relative lives in UK?
No, as you were saying, you need to show ties to your home country and not to
Yeah.
the UK.
I guess this question is better for the tourism. If you're going as a tourist, then I guess this might help you to show the expenses, like if someone sponsors you.
The same applies for PLAB as well, but it doesn't really make a big difference. As long as you've got enough money for your trip, you don't need to have a relative
True.
in the UK.
Yeah. Okay. So this actually we missed. Yeah. I also want some clarity on the FY1
Sure,
and FY2 part. So if you can
sure.
just elaborate these two things a bit.
Uh, what would you like to know about F1 or F2?
I actually want to know if someone who hasn't done internship in their home country or they don't want
Yeah,
to do it. So is there any
yeah.
other way for that? Because there are many students, those who study abroad, but they don't want to come back to their home country. And most of the countries that offer medicine abroad, they don't give the how to say pre-graduation internship.
Yeah,
So
you're right.
how to cover up the internship part for them?
So, if you're a British national, then your chances of getting foundation year one training are relatively better. But for most of us who are not British nationals, it's best to complete your internship from anywhere in the world before you move to the UK. So if you're graduating from abroad, from somewhere like Russia or Ukraine or China, and you cannot complete your internship there, then it's best to come home back to wherever you live and complete your internship there. Because it's difficult to get internship in the UK because most of the F1 internship slots go to the British graduates who graduate from medical schools. They go to F1,
Okay.
so there aren't many slots left for us. Having said that, people still make it, non-British people still make it to F1 slots, but it's not easy. It takes a lot of time. It can take a few years. So it's better to make things easy for yourself and complete your internship back home in your own country.
Mhm. Okay.
And about the visa, someone was asking why they make the visa so difficult to get.
Yeah.
The answer to that is because they want to keep things safe in their country. They want to make sure that anyone who's coming in will stay legally and will not do anything illegal. So that is all they want to see. As long as they trust you that you're a doctor, you're coming here to take your exam, and they just want to know that you will not overstay and become a
Mhm.
burden on them. They just want to see that you will go back to your home country. As long as you can satisfy them with that, you'll get your visa.
Okay, so about the internship part, first of all, I just want to give a summary of that. It's better to come back to your home countries, give your exams, the exit exams, and then do your internship, and then move to any country you want to. So,
Yeah.
because most of the time students think the Medical Council of India exam or the Pakistan Dental and Medical Council exam is more difficult than the UK ones. So it is
Yeah.
not actually like that if you just put in the right effort. Yeah, one thing I want to mention here is most of the time students they consider the PLAB as a shortcut. Like
Mm.
they don't have the right perspective to go to UK or for that matter work in UK, but they just want it as a shortcut and they just want to run away from their own country exams and they want to start working there.
Yeah, that's true. PLAB is a very easy exam. It does take less time, but still it's best to do things properly.
Okay, so it's just yeah. Someone is asking. I heard the priority for UK graduates for change because there's no more RLMT for non-British people. So if you can just tell
So,
something
so
more about this.
again, someone sent me a private message asking if I'm here. Yes, I am here.
Yeah, Siddharth, we are here. You can ask your questions if you have. If you think you are not connected, then you can just reconnect. Yeah, one question I have is, can we do internship for, let's say, Ukraine or Russia and then come to UK?
If it is an internship with an acceptable pattern, yes,
If you have to summarize the acceptable pattern in few words, is it possible?
of course. So, number one, it should be recognized in the country in which you're doing your internship. For example, if you're doing your internship in Ukraine, it should be
Mhm.
recognized in Ukraine or
Okay.
Russia or China, wherever you are doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And then, secondly, you should have at least 3 months of medicine, at least 3 months of surgery, and overall 12 months,
Mm-hmm.
365 days, not one day less. If it's 364 days, it will not be accepted.
Okay. So yeah, someone also asks about if they have a gap in their internship.
Hmm.
So how does it matter?
So, clinical gaps are a big no-no. So, you need to avoid them at all costs. But I know people with internship gaps do get accepted, but they have to provide a lot of documentation to show why they had these gaps. I know someone who had a gap of 3 years during their internship and still got accepted, but they had to submit a lot of documents to the GMC, and it's not easy. So please don't take any gap during your internship.
Okay. I actually missed one question here is for the PLAB 2, as we have spoken about the visa. Can one take the tourist visa and enter the UK for PLAB 2?
Yes, you can.
Okay. So no questions about that. Furthermore,
Yeah, and someone's asking about the RLMT, which has been abolished now, and if it's easy to get F1 internship now.
yeah.
So yes, you're right. RLMT does not exist anymore, and that has made things a bit easier. But F1 is still very competitive because most of the slots are taken away by the local British graduates. So please don't think about going for F1 internship. I understand some people have to and they have no choice,
Mhm.
but it's not an advisable road to take.
Okay. So so far, I guess we have almost covered the half of the portion. So just coming on to the job structure now.
Sure.
What kind of jobs are actually available for the IMGs?
All kinds of jobs, all
Okay.
from
Like
junior
training and
level.
non-training both.
Yes, yes.
So I actually want to know more about the training and non-training jobs. Like, what is the basic difference between these two?
Sure. I guess it's easier to explain this by comparing things to how things are back home in India or
Okay.
Pakistan.
Mm-hmm.
So when you do your internship, that is a training job because you're training to get somewhere. You're training to,
Mm-hmm.
if it's in India, you're training to become a doctor. If it's in Pakistan, you're training to get your full license. And after that, a lot of people work as medical officers. I think that is a term used in India as well.
Yeah.
So medical officers are non-training doctors because they're not training. They're not training to become anything. And
True.
during their medical office years, they pass their exams, they pass their NEET PG or FCPS 1 in Pakistan.
Yeah.
And then they get their residency training, as it's called in Pakistan, or PG, as it's called in India. And
Mhm.
PG or residency is a training job again, because you're training to become a consultant.
Okay.
So, so I hope you understand what a training and non-training job is. In a training job, you're progressing in your career to get somewhere.
Mhm.
In a non-training job, you're not progressing. In a non-training job, you're just where you are. You're not moving forwards, if that makes sense.
Okay. Okay. So just to ask in the same relevance, after you clear PLAB 2, so you have to go with the non-training jobs only?
No, you can start with a training or a non-training job. It's completely up to you. You can find a
Okay.
training job as well. But
Mm.
it's best to start your NHS career with a non-training job so that you understand the system before you jump into training, because training can be more overwhelming because it has more responsibility, more pressure, more stress, more expectations from you, more work to do. In a non-training role, all of that is less.
Mm-hmm.
So you you get more time to adjust into the system and understand what the system is. And once you understand things, once you're comfortable, then jump into training.
Okay. So we have covered the two questions here. Yeah, one thing. So, like after the internship, if one gets into the non-training job in their home country back there, does it help them get a job in UK after that?
Uh, the best way to answer this is you should not have any clinical gaps in your career. So
Okay.
if you complete your internship, and because in India it's pre-graduate, so you have to work anyway. Because you should, as I said, you should not be jobless. You need your job for your visa. And the same goes in Pakistan as well. If you complete your internship, you should continue working before until you go to the UK. So because even a single day's gap, if let's say I finish my internship today, today's my last day, and if I'm not starting my next job from today, I'll have to explain in writing why I was not working tomorrow. So even a single day's clinical gap has to be explained every single time you take a new job. So every time I start a new job in the UK, I have to explain what I've done so far in my career. And clinical gaps make a big negative impact in the UK.
So what if you explain them and you give them in written? So do they consider that, or there are times when they just don't want to listen if you have any gaps?
Of course, they listen, but depends on what you want and what they want to give. For example, let's say I'm applying for a job and uh, I've got a clinical gap of 3 months, and there's another candidate who does not have that gap, and they only have one slot, so it might go to the other person and not me.
I get
But
it.
if they've
True.
got two slots, then both of us might get the job. So it depends. Also, clinical gaps are a big problem for GMC registration, especially big clinical gaps. I'm not saying you won't get registration, you will get registration, but you'll just have to give a lot of documents to explain why you were not working and what exactly were you doing. Even if you were not working for personal reasons, such as someone in your family was unwell, you'll have to prove that they were unwell and prove that what exactly you were doing that stopped you from working. So it's to make things easier for yourself, it's best to avoid clinical gaps and
Okay.
continue working.
sorry to interrupt. Let's take an example. If someone has done the internship in March, let's suppose, and after that, this situation like the pandemic has occurred from past 3 months already. So does it make a relevance in that if they are not
So,
able to get the registration done in their home country?
so this is a special circumstance. This pandemic is not normal. So yes, they will understand this because you're not choosing to stay jobless by your
Yeah,
choice. It's just
true.
something that is. So yes, they will understand this, but it's best to start working as soon as you can.
Okay, so if you have any reason which makes sense, you are good to go.
Yeah.
Okay. Uh,
But still, they will expect you that even in this pandemic, when you cannot work, they will expect you to stay at home and do online courses. They need to see that you're serious about your career. So they'll expect you to do a lot of online courses at home to make sure that you continue your learning.
they just don't want you to sit idle, right?
Yeah.
True. So, how many extra hours duty can? Okay, yeah. Someone is asking how many extra hours of duty can a junior doctor do?
In the UK,
Yeah, in the UK.
about 20 hours per week.
Okay, so that is like the maximum limit.
Yeah, that's a lot anyway.
Okay, so one question which again is going to excite you. In your opinion, would there be major changes in the job opportunities in future, and are there enough jobs available for IMGs?
So, are there enough jobs available for IMGs right now? Yes, there are. Definitely, there are more than enough jobs. About the future, to be honest, no one can predict how things will be in the next few years. So, I'm not going to lie, no one can predict this. Absolutely no one. But for now, there are enough jobs. I don't think things are going to change any soon. But in the long run, 3, 4, 5 years from now, I don't know how things will be.
Okay, so yeah, that's pretty much honest response from your end because it's very difficult to predict situation anywhere in the any part of the world actually.
Yes.
Uh, okay, so if anyone has any particular question about the job, you can please write down here.
Someone's asking if they can't find a job right after internship in Pakistan. I think we discussed that they
Yeah.
would understand at the moment because of the pandemic. Examples of online courses, if you're unsure, you can always go to Facebook groups, but all these websites, GMC website would have courses, BMA has courses. Just, uh, I think Facebook groups or Google should help you find good
Mhm.
courses.
Okay, so
Uh, Someone's asking if running your own clinic counts in clinical experience. Of course, it counts, but it makes a negative impression because there are no checks and balances on you. You're working on your own. It's fine in Pakistan or India, but in the UK, it makes a bit of a negative impression.
mhm, yeah. Does working in private hospital as JR doctor in India soon after internship will help as a cherry on top in CV?
So no, it will not be a cherry on top. It's just something basic that you need to have. It's not something extra special that you have. It's something basic that you need to
It is
have.
just a cake without a cherry. Yeah,
And
coming to
someone's
the living expenses in the next section.
okay.
What post? Okay, so finances and the expenditure.
Hmm,
So if one has to talk about the basic minimum monthly expenses in UK on an
hmm.
average, if you don't talk about the major cities like London, but on an average, how much one actually needs to live a normal life as a doctor in UK, how much would that be?
Depends completely on this person's circumstances. So the answer will be very different for someone who's single and for someone who's got a spouse and 3 children. So it varies on your circumstances. So, but if it's a single person, um, again, it can vary from somewhere between £1,000 to £3,000 per month, depending on your lifestyle, depending on whether you like to keep the latest iPhone, whether you like to shop a lot. But the the basics are not too expensive. You can easily live a very comfortable life in the UK.
One thing which I have personally heard and felt in London when I was there, the rentals are pretty much high in UK. For example, for the houses and all.
Varies a lot. So when I was living in Portsmouth, yeah, I'll share some numbers here, which are very personal,
Yeah.
but I'll share them. So when I was living in Portsmouth, my rent was £300 per month, and this included all utility bills, council tax bills, and everything.
Okay.
And when I was living in London, the bills and rent all were something like £2,000. So there's a
Huge
difference of
difference.
more than nearly seven times.
Yeah.
Uh, so it depends, but on average, in most places, the rent is somewhere like six, seven, 800 per month.
Okay.
Um, and if you include the bills as well, it's like £1,000.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so, but if you live in hospital accommodations, they're generally cheaper. They cost like three, 400, £500.
Okay.
Things vary a lot, but it's important to know that you get more than enough money.
Okay. So yeah, we have a salary section because that is something which excites everyone. But after that, if I have to talk about if someone wants to have an overview of the availability of the places to stay, like accommodation and the part-time jobs available, are there any sources for that apart from the Facebook groups?
You mean during your PLAB is when you don't have the GMC license?
Yeah, even before the GMC license and just after the GMC, like if you don't have the proper job.
So, okay, to answer that about the jobs, no, you can't have a job legally because you will not be on your work visa, so you can't work
True.
part-time jobs.
Okay.
Um, so you can't really work. And sorry, what was the other thing you asked?
Like after the GMC registration, if you don't get the full-time job, so can you get the
Yeah,
jobs like for the part-time or something like that?
no, you can't because you won't have the work visa for that.
Again, okay. So okay, work visa you will only get after you have the job invitation or the offer letter.
That's right. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
yeah. The cost of the exam, the cost of PLAB 1 and PLAB 2, if you have any idea about that.
Yes, so we talked about cost for IELTS and OET. I'll just revise that again.
Yeah.
IELTS costs like 150 to £200. OET
Mm-hmm.
costs 350 to £400. PLAB-1 costs close to £235. PLAB-2 costs £875. So this is the cost of PLAB-2. But there are costs relating to other things as well. Like when you go to the UK to take PLAB-2, you have
Mm-hmm.
to stay in the UK for a month or two. You have to get an airline ticket. You have to live in the UK. You need to pay rent. You need to buy food and groceries. When you pass the exam, you need to pay for GMC registration. So all in all, if I calculate everything starting from your IELTS until
Mm-hmm.
you get your first job in the UK, the total cost is somewhere around 4,000 to uh, £6,000, depending on how long you stay in the UK and how expensive your accommodation is, what your lifestyle is like, how much you
Mm-hmm.
eat, how much you spend on shopping. So this includes everything. In my case, I think in my case, the total was somewhere around 4, exactly 4,000 in my case.
Okay.
Um, yeah.
Okay. So we have already discussed about the basic monthly expenses and all. I guess you do have your blog about how to minimize the monthly expenses.
Yes.
Yeah, so we can just refer to that for the further details. And now to talk about the GP training and the residency program.
Hmm. Sure.
About
What about
the
the residency
taxation and all, we'll
program?
discuss in the salary section. Yeah. Hello.
Sure. So, do you want me to answer the taxation thing
Taxation we'll discuss in the salary portion, like after a couple of
later on?
minutes.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. 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 Sure.
So
Uh,
for now, let's start with the GP training and the residency program.
okay. Sure.
So, what exactly is GP training, and what all things are available for the IMGs? Like, what all branches are easier to get into?
Sure. Your voice is breaking slightly, but I think I heard you.
I told you
So
I'm in India.
so you asked me what is GP training. So GP
Yeah.
training is a 3-year training program, which
Mhm.
I am in right now. So at the end of these 3 years, I will be a qualified GP. And I know there is no proper GP system in most places in India and Pakistan. But a GP is your local doctor, which you go to if you're unwell. So, for example, in India or Pakistan, if I get a chest infection or um, if I've got an upset tummy, I'll just go to the local shop and buy a medication. But I
Mhm.
can't do that in the UK. So if I've got a sore throat or if I'm feeling unwell, I'll call the GP and I'll go to the GP. The GP will write a prescription for me. It's after seeing me, examining me, and then the GP will tell me if I need to go to the hospital, if I need to get a prescription, or if I don't need anything. So that is your local GP, local doctor. And GPs work in small areas. So most of the
Okay.
times, GPs know their patients, the patients know their GPs. Uh, Patients go to the GPs for a number of years, so they end up being like a part of the family because imagine seeing the same patients for 30, 40 years. You get
Okay.
to know them, you get to know their family as well. So that is what a GP is.
Yeah. Uh,
Um, yeah.
and about the post graduation thing, as I guess PLAB is not the route to get into the post graduation.
Hmm. Yeah, so I'll tell you how it works. We talked about non-training and training jobs, and I said it's best to start as a non-training doctor. So
Yeah.
after PLAB, you observe for the system, you switch training programs, and then you apply for that training program. And it's best to work as a non-training for a year or two to understand things. And when you understand the system, then you go into that training program and you start as a trainee in that training program. And you can get into any training program, absolutely any training program.
Okay, like, and what about the competitive training jobs, like which are difficult for the IMGs in particular?
So competitive training jobs are difficult for everyone. It doesn't matter if you're an IMG or not, because as someone mentioned, the RLMT is exempt now. RLMT in the past meant that preference was given to British or local graduates, but that's not the case now. Now everyone is in the same boat. So I'm not a local British graduate. I graduated in Pakistan. I and someone else are in the same boat now who's a British graduate. So there is no preference to the locals anymore. Everyone is in the same boat, and whoever
Okay.
works hard will get in for the
So
competitive
the moment you
specialties.
get the GMC registration, so you are exactly equal to the UK nationals.
That's right.
Okay, so very good. Uh, Now something which is PLAB versus MRCP.
Sure.
So just an overview, because I know it gets difficult to explain everything in the detail here. But still, if
Sure.
someone has to choose between one amongst these, so what it should be and what are the pros and cons in general?
Sure. Sure. So PLAB is only a licensing exam at the end of which you get your GMC registration and you can work in the UK. MRCP is membership of Royal College of Physicians. which is a membership exam, which you need to pass before you can enter ST3 level of training, but it also gives you the license to work in the UK. So obviously MRCP is a level above PLAB, which means it takes more effort, it takes more studying, it needs more time, it's more expensive as well. So it's just a level above PLAB and everything. So in my opinion, it's best to start at a junior, at a small level. So I tell people that it's better to climb the stairs gradually rather than jumping up the stairs.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and maybe it's a bad example, but I use this example because I play a lot of FIFA on my PlayStation. So if you're playing FIFA for the first time, you start at the amateur level. If you play a first game at world class level, you're going to lose the game for sure. So it's best to start at a lower level.
Okay, so that's basically the idea of PLAB versus MRCP. I guess now you can decide. So is there anything when you can decide not to give MRCP at all in your career, or you think it is a point where it comes like you should give MRCP after the GMC registration later on
So
in your
not
career?
every Okay, so not everyone has to take MRCP. Like I don't have to take MRCP because I'm a GP trainee, so I'll be taking MRC GP.
Mhm.
Um, so there is a different Royal College exam for each specialty. For obs and gynae, it's MRCOG. For peds, it's MRCPCH. Uh, so no, not everyone needs to take the MRCP. But even like for GP trainees, you can't take MRC GP unless you start GP training. So the rules are
Okay.
different for each specialty.
Mhm. Okay. I had the question, can you guide how can we prepare for MRCP both parts and paces?
Sure. So for MRCP Part 1 and 2, these are theory-based exams, kind of like PLAB 1. So you just need to go through the question banks. Past medicine is the most popular one, but there are other question banks as well. For PACES, it's kind of like PLAB 2, they're clinical stations. So again, you need to attend courses. But PACES is one of the most difficult exams in the world. You need a lot of clinical experience, ideally in the UK. I'm not saying that you can't pass your MRCP without working in the UK. A lot of people do, but
Mhm.
it's a difficult exam. It's better to start with something small. But people do pass their MRCP without working in the UK.
Okay. So that's pretty much it, I guess, about the PLAB versus MRCP thing. So, right, then something about the salaries.
Sure.
I guess we'll take these questions in the end now. If yeah,
Sure.
mostly they're about the salaries in the PLAB versus MRCEM, after which exam entry to training position is more difficult. If MRCP entry more difficult than PLAB for training positions, please compare entry difficulty after each exam.
Okay. So things things vary a lot. Your entry level job will not depend on whether you passed PLAB or MRCP. It will depend on your past experience. So let's say you're a consultant in India and you've passed your PLAB. So you can start at a higher level job. You can start as a ST3 level registrar. So it depends on your experience, but um, it's best to start at a smaller level. Start as an SHO, which means ST1 or F2. Uh, Even if you've passed your MRCP, it's best to start as an SHO initially, get used to the system, and then move to higher level.
Okay, so that's I guess pretty much satisfactory now, and let's move on to the salary portion. Uh,
Sure.
what is the average salary of someone who has just cleared the PLAB 2 and gotten the GMC registration? So what might be the salary? One more question. Does it vary from city to city or something like that?
No, it doesn't vary from city to city. Um, People in London get slightly more, maybe, but negligible. Uh, but So how much money do we get? Depends on what level we start at.
Okay.
So at F, you can write this down if you want in the audience. So for F2 level, you get somewhere between 2,000 and 2,500 per month. At ST1 level, you get somewhere between 2,500 and 3,000 per month. For
Mm-hmm.
ST3 and above, you get somewhere between 3,000 and 3,500 per month. Uh,
Okay.
so, so it depends on where you're starting.
Okay. So I guess the minimum is somewhere around 2000 to 2200, right?
Most people who are junior doctors who've completed their internship, most of them start at ST1 level and get somewhere around 3,000 per month.
Okay. Okay. So okay. Now to talk about the taxation.
Mm.
So if you get 3,000 pounds, how much is the actual enhanced salary?
So I'm talking about the in-hand salary. So if you
Okay.
see my salary slip, I get something like 4,500 or something, but what I get in my hand at the end is 3,000.
Okay.
Yeah, so and taxation is for junior doctors, it's around 25% or so, but I've mentioned all numbers after taxation.
Okay. And these are the basic salary, right? If someone works extra, as we already spoken about, like 20 hours a week, then
Hmm.
how does it affect the salary?
Uh, so for it depends of how many extra hours are you doing. On average, you get something like after taxation, 20 to 30 pounds per hour. But
Okay.
you can even make 2,000 pounds extra in a month by doing these extra shifts.
Okay.
Uh, and Ayush, thank you for writing all of this down. The 3,000 to 3,500 is for ST3 actually, not for ST2. But thank you for
Hmm.
writing down.
Okay. So, uh, okay. Yeah. One question which I have here is, which field is better in terms of the salary? Like, which level one should enter if they have just the salary in their mind?
So which level should they enter considering salary?
Yeah.
Depends on what their background is. So if someone is a consultant back home, then they can start as a registrar. But if you're just a junior doctor, it's best to start as an F2 or ST1.
Okay, so makes sense as we already know the salaries by now. So
Yeah.
one point which I want to mention here is, like you told, like the bigger cities have more expenses. So if you get more or less the same salaries, then is it better to be in the smaller cities?
This is a completely personal choice and not something that you need to decide right now. Most people, in fact, it varies a lot. When I was new in the UK, I did not want to live in London, but now I want to live in London. And I feel that even though the rent is higher in London, but living in London is cheaper because you don't need to own a car in London.
Hmm.
Um, and everything's available. So I think it's actually cheaper to live in London because you don't need to own a car. But it depends on your
Okay,
personal circumstances, depends on how many members you have in your family, how many of them are earning, how many dependents you have, what lifestyle you have. It varies.
okay, and the job opportunities are more or less same everywhere, all over the
That's
UK.
right. Yes.
Okay, so we have covered this part as well. Now, yeah, the
Mm,
difference in the salary between surgical and non-surgical field.
no difference.
Okay.
There's no difference
So
for cash. Yeah.
perfect. UK versus USA. If someone is preparing for USMLE, does it help them with PLAB preparation as well, or how to choose between these two? Like the basic idea.
Okay. So for someone who's studying for USMLE, it will not, I mean, it will help a bit because you're studying for something, but everything is different in the UK. Even the units they use for everything are different. So, and USMLE step one tests your your basic knowledge of your subjects from your first 3, 4 years of med school. but the basic sciences. But PLAB tests only your clinical sciences. So
Hmm.
they're completely different. And you're asking how to choose between the UK and the US.
Yeah.
Now, this is a completely personal choice. If you've got reasons such as your family lives in the US or the UK, or if you love the US or the UK for any reason. For example, if like me, if you love Arsenal and want to live in London for that, so if you've got a reason, then that's different. But if the UK and the US mean the same to you, if there is no difference for you,
Hmm.
then I think UK is a better choice because it takes less time, less effort, less money, less energy to get into the UK system. There are more job opportunities in the UK. In the US, out of all the IMGs who pass their USMLEs, only half of them get a match. So half of them remain jobless for a year. In the UK, no one is jobless. Everyone finds a job. So in that sense, the UK is better. Uh,
Okay.
some might argue that the US has a better health system, but I think the UK has a better health system because the UK is a welfare state, so healthcare is free for everyone. So you don't have to worry about whether your patient can pay for the treatment or not because it's for free. And when you end up being a patient, again, the healthcare is for free. In the US, people end up going bankrupt. They end up selling their houses to pay for their bills.
Okay, so if we talk about just the salaries, then is there any major difference between the salaries in UK and US?
For junior doctors, no, there is no difference. For consultants, yes, there's a big difference. In the UK, the consultants get somewhere around 70,000 to 100,000 pounds per year. This is before all deductions. In the US, they get somewhere between 100,000 to 400,000 pounds, sorry, dollars per month. So
Hmm.
there's a difference of about, there can be a difference of four, up to four times. So the consultants in the US make a lot more money. Having said that,
Hmm.
even as a junior doctor, even as a junior doctor in the UK, I make about 50,000 pounds per year. This is before taxation. But even on this salary, it's more than enough for me to buy the latest car that I want, to buy even to buy a house, to travel the world, to invite my parents to come here. It's more than enough money to do everything that I want, even as a junior doctor. So why? So money doesn't matter much. Yes, the money that you make as a US consultant is a lot more. But if money is your goal, then I think you're in the wrong profession anyway.
True.
Um, if your goals are to buy a helicopter and an airplane, then yes, the US is better. But if you just want a good life where you can buy everything you need, then you get more than enough money in the UK for
So
that.
that is where the work-life balance also comes into the game.
Yes, because
Uh,
you work more hours in the US.
okay, something very personal, I guess, or very subjective. But I have personally seen many doctors, those who have gone through the PLAB journey and those who have gotten the GMC registration HS as well. Later on, they just want to move to US again, and they come to the USMLE pathway and they start again with the step one preparation. Is it something which doesn't excite them anymore, or there is a structural difference between UK and US, or I don't know what the reason is. If you can just elaborate something on this.
So there will always be people in any country who try to move to a different country. Personally, I've not come across anyone who's moved to the US from the UK because people are happy where they are, wherever they are.
Hmm.
Um, but as you say, it's very subjective. A lot of people feel that medicine is more advanced in the US. They feel the US is a better, more advanced country in general. They just think that the US is better, so they think about moving. But most of the people I've come across end up staying here because it's a very comfortable life here. But it's all
Fair enough.
subjective. I'm
It's
not saying that
personal
people
as
should
well.
work in the UK and not the US. You should work wherever you want to work. If you want to go to the US, go for it. I don't think any country is better than the other. Just Depends on what you want for yourself.
One thing which I want to add on here is and ask you, uh, does passing PLAB 1 and PLAB 2 and getting the NHS registration help you in other country as well apart from UK? Any other country?
Depends on which country you're trying to go to. So in the US, no, it doesn't help, but it does help in other countries. Like uh, it exempts you from some parts of the Australian Medical Council exam.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it also gives you exemption from some of the New Zealand pathway based on your membership of Royal College exam. You can work in a lot of Middle Eastern countries.
Okay.
So it depends on which country you want to go into.
Okay. So I guess mostly we have covered everything. We are just left with some miscellaneous questions now. We have actually made it through the 90% of the portion already.
Okay.
So congratulations for that. So let's start with the miscellaneous questions now. Uh, how can one excel in the OSCE part of the PLAB? Like if they don't
So
have any clinical exposure before in their medical school days.
sure. So it's important to understand what the PLAB-2 is. It tests you for three things. One is history taking, one is management, and the last one is interpersonal skills. So three sections: history taking,
Mhm.
management, interpersonal skills. There are 18 stations in PLAB-2. Each station has 12 marks, so 4 marks each for history taking, management, and interpersonal skills. And you only need to get 50% to pass because the passing score is around 50%, 50,
Mhm.
uh, which means you need to get 6 out of 12 in each station, roughly on average. Now
Okay.
let's now obviously you when you go to your academy, you will study for your clinical management and history taking. So you'll go through that, and you'll find it very easy. It's PLAB-2 is like it's like a play where you're acting. So if you love acting, you'll enjoy it. I don't enjoy acting, but I still enjoy my PLAB-2. And the thing is that even if you do bad in a station, you will still score at least 2 out of 4 in history taking because you're a doctor. You know at least something about history taking, and if you do a really good job, you'll get 4 as well. But let's say you do a bad job, and let's say you get only 2 out of 4. Let's say you do a bad job in clinical management as well. You'll still get at least 1 or 2 out of 4.
Mhm.
But as long as you're nice and kind to the patient, as long as you talk politely and softly and sweetly, you will get 4 out of 4 in interpersonal skills. So that's 4 in interpersonal skills, 1 or 2 in clinical management, and 1 or 2 in history taking. So that's a total of 6 to 8 out of 12. So you've passed the session just by being nice. So as long as
Okay.
you're nice, you cannot fail PLAB-2. Just be nice.
Very good. So it's not that difficult according to your explanation.
All you need is just exposure to the British culture. Understand that when someone comes up to you, you hold the door open for them and wait them to go through. You say thank you, sorry, please, kindly, um, just these basic things.
It's more about the etiquettes and the manners, I guess.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Okay, so coming to some of the questions that students actually want to know for their personal roadmap, what are the tips that you want to give to the final year students, those who are willing to come to UK via PLAB journey?
Um, Focus on your MBBS first before anything else. Study hard, become good doctors. Make a roadmap in your head about what you need to do, when you need to take which exam. Just know when you need to take your exams, and then do focused, targeted studying. Don't waste your time studying everything. Speak to people who've passed these exams recently. They will be your best guides. Stay active on social media. Facebook, everything that I know today is from Facebook, and it's the best free resource that you can find. And I can promise you that you cannot make this journey without Facebook. It's very difficult to do this without Facebook. And the most important thing after all of this is enjoy and have a good time. I mean, don't just keep studying all the time. Do whatever you like, whatever it is. Enjoy your life.
This time won't come back.
Yes.
So, okay, coming to the next question. What will be the effects of coronavirus on the job opportunities for junior doctors in UK once the COVID thing is over?
Go back to normal. Nothing will change after the current crisis is over because the UK needs doctors.
Okay, more or less the system is going to remain the same everywhere, right?
Yes, once things go back to normal, which I don't know when that will be.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, something good. How IMGs are treated in UK hospitals by the local doctors? Any sort of racism or the discrimination?
I've never faced any racism. Most people don't face racism. But when you start your career in the NHS, the first 6 months are generally hard for everyone. And
Mm-hmm.
everyone goes through the same. It takes us time to adjust into the system. And I'll be honest, I used to think that my colleagues were treating me differently, but that was not the case. I used to think that I was different, and that made me feel uh, different. And I did not used to hang out with them. It took me a long time to make friends. But then later on, I mean, now I've got so many friends, both IMGs and local graduates, because I feel once you start feeling a part of the team, once you treat yourself as a part of the team, then they treat you as a part of the team always anyway. I'm not saying that there is no racism. There is racism everywhere, even in
Mm.
Pakistan and India. Um,
Okay.
but it's negligible. It doesn't affect most of us most of the times.
Mm. Okay. So someone is asking about your daily routine while preparing for the PLAB preparation. Like, how was it?
Uh, it was really busy, but it was one of the best time of my life. So this was my routine. I used to wake up around 7 or 8 in the morning. Used to get fresh, uh, take a shower, change my clothes, and quickly run to the academy after
Mhm.
having breakfast, or have breakfast on the bus. Used to reach the class early. The class used to end by 10, 11, or 12. So after the class, I just used to come home, eat something if there was time, uh, and then just go to bed and sleep. Uh,
Mhm.
that's all I did for 2, 3 weeks. Once the classes were over, I had more time, but the routine was the same. I used to go to the academy, study till I was dead, and just come home and sleep. That's what I did.
Okay. So in general, you did the same for your PLAB too. This was it.
This was for PLAB 2, yes. For PLAB 1, it was very different. As I said, PLAB 2 prep takes about 3 months, but I gave it about 8 or 9 months.
Nice.
So I studied in a very relaxed atmosphere, and I never studied after 5 p.m. I used to watch a lot of TV shows and movies every day because I never studied after 5 p.m. And the last month I did not study much at all. I took a week's leave of absence from work to study for my PLAB 1, and I thought I would study a lot, but
Mhm.
I ended up watching 3 movies every day in the last 7 days. I passed my
Okay.
PLAB 1 easily, not because I'm a brilliant student, but just because I knew how to study because I took advice from people who had passed the exam recently.
Okay. So do these scores matter
Uh, for PLAB 1,
for PLAB one and PLAB two both?
PLAB 1, do not take any courses, please. Please do not waste your money. Just the online question banks are more than enough. For PLAB 2, courses are very important, and just take the course and believe your teachers and just follow them blindly.
Okay. And about the scores, like, is there any score which is like no, they won't consider them for the jobs, or it's just about passing the PLAB one?
PLAB 1 and 2 scores only matter if you're going for foundation year training 1, which I advise most people to go against, as I advised earlier in this
Mhm.
session. But if you're going for the regular, any other job, then PLAB 1, 2 scores don't matter at all. No one cares.
Okay. So as long as you're registered, it's almost the same. Okay. One again, a very important question. As you've already worked in the Pakistan, so I guess you do know about our India and Pakistan culture. So how is it different in terms of practicing medicine in our countries and in UK? And which one is better?
Completely different. Uh, okay, so how is it different? It's completely different. Uh, on my first day at work in the NHS, when I went to the nurse and she asked me what my name was, I said my name is Dr. Khan. He said, she said, here we call people by their first name, so I will call you Naseer. I said, okay. I thought people use surnames in Britain, but no, I mean, they used to a few hundred years ago, but now everyone is on first name basis. And when
Mhm.
you work in accidents and emergency department, even the consultants, you're on first name basis with them. So it used to feel really weird initially that I'm talking to my consultant and I'm talking to her using for her first name basis, saying, Simona, how are you? And Simona, where do you want me to work today? So that was really weird. I mean, being on first name basis with your consultants, that is just not possible in India or Pakistan.
Yeah, we have the
Uh,
habit of addressing the families.
yeah. Um, in Pakistan, everyone calls you sir, and a lot. I get a lot of messages, and people call me sir, and I tell them that please call me Nasir because that's my name. Um, so there's that, and then what I love about the culture here is that everyone is equal. As I say, everyone is
Mhm.
on first name basis with everyone, and everyone is equal. So it used to really surprise me seeing on the boards that a junior nurse is sitting down on this
Mhm.
seat doing some work, and the consultant comes up and asks her a few questions, and she doesn't get up from her chair because in Pakistan we were used to this, that even a junior doctor would get up from their seat and say to the consultant, please sit down, please take my seat. But no, the junior nurse will not get up. She will sit because she is not inferior to the consultant because everyone is equal. So I love the equality part of the culture. And you asked
Mhm.
which one is better. I won't say which one is better. I think they're every every culture is different and has good and bad things.
Mhm.
Um, I enjoy working here more than I did in Pakistan, but that's just me. A lot of people miss working in Pakistan. They enjoy the privilege that doctors have in Pakistan and India. Like here, if here nurses are equal to you, nurses know more than you do. Um, so, but I enjoy
Correct.
working here.
Mhm. Yeah, that's a nice explanation actually. It again depends on the person.
Yeah,
Okay, so coming to the UKMLA, uh,
yeah.
what do you think would be the future of UK in terms of medicine, like PLAB getting changed with the UKMLA, and what things you personally think are gonna change? Is it gonna be for a good or for the bad?
I think again, this is just my prediction, and there is no way to predict this, but
Yeah.
there's no way to know what is going to happen for sure. But I think nothing will change. The UK still needs doctors. They've already said that the UKMLA will be a lot similar to PLAB 1 and 2. It will have questions from the same question banks.
Mhm.
The pattern of the exam will be the same as well. So I don't think much will change.
So it is just about a name shift.
It is about a name shift. It is also about uh, making it a universal system for everyone. So like the UK graduates will also have to take the UKMLA. So everyone will have to take the UKMLA who needs to work in the UK.
Mhm.
Um, so that is the difference.
Okay. So similarly for PLAP 2, we have to give proof of at least 3 months of internship in medicine and surgery each,
Hmm.
which we won't have before completing the internship. So how will
Yes.
we register for the exam?
So for PLAB 1, if you're coming from India, as I said, you can't uh, register for PLAB 1 until you graduate anyway. So you need to complete your internship and
Yeah.
graduation before you register. But if you're coming from Pakistan, you don't need internship for PLAB-1. You just need IELTS and MBBS. That is it.
Hmm.
The internship is needed for GMC registration, which comes after you pass PLAB-2. So that comes on later.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I guess we have already discussed about the basic requirement to enter the FY2.
Hmm.
What if a junior doctor wants to, yeah, what if a junior doctor wants to live with a wife who is also a doctor but in another city?
Hmm.
So,
They can do that. They can live in a they can either live in different cities, or if these cities are close by, then they can live in the same house and just drive to work. So
okay,
yeah.
very good. Yeah. After how many years? After how many years an immigrant doctor will get the nationality of UK, like the green card or whatever it is?
So after 5 years, you get ILR, which means indefinite leave to remain, which means you can live here without needing to work. 5 years.
So like 5 years after the NHS registration.
For 5 years of living here, yes. So 5 years of
Okay.
working here, yes.
Okay. And again, some sort of same question. What if a junior doctor wants his family to settle in UK with himself?
So it depends on what you mean by family. If you mean your spouse and children, they can live here. But if you mean parents and siblings, no, they cannot. They can visit 6 months at a time max, but they can't live here.
Okay. So coming to our last question, uh, she's planning for OET and then PLAB. Basically, it has been a gap of 10 years since she has graduated. So does GMC has any issue with the long gap, or she has to start studying? Like what she should do like after the gap of 10 years?
Yeah, I when I was doing my PLAB-2, I had a friend with me who had the exact same situation. And she got her GMC registration. She's now working as a training registrar. She's doing really well. It took her uh, a bit longer than it takes others to find her first job. So that is the only downside. She
Okay.
required a lot of documents when she applied for GMC registration. In fact, I know someone who had a 15-year gap and they
Mhm.
still found GMC registration, but they had to explain with documents what they were doing in those 15 years. So this person had to submit more than 200 documents to explain what they were doing in those 15 years.
Okay. So it's very much possible. No need
Yes,
to
it's
do
just a
so.
lot of hard work.
Okay. Yeah, many people, many students actually want to know how does it help after you get the NHS registration and you start practicing in UK? If you want to come back to your home country, let's say India, Pakistan, does it help building your credential or it's still the same in terms of value?
Depends on how things are back home in your own country. Um, I'm not sure about India, but I think the system is very similar to Pakistan. So yes, once you become a consultant in the UK, you can come back home to Pakistan and work as a consultant here.
Okay.
Um, and this is a personal thing, but I've noticed that most of us who come to the UK, we think about coming back home one day, and the main reason is our parents, because our parents are here, and our siblings, our families, our lives are here.
Yeah.
But the honest truth is that it takes us about 10-15 years to become consultants, and by that time we end up getting married, having children, having a family and a lot of friends here.
Mhm.
And there comes a time when our reason to go back home stop existing, and this is why most people never go back.
Mhm. True. So you have to decide between the two. Mhm. Someone is asking about the criteria of getting into the specialty of choice.
Varies with each specialty, so depends on which specialty you wish to get into.
Mhm. So, but as you already said, it's very easy to get into any specialty you want to. So there is no, like, no red flag for any of the specialty, right? Or is it so?
So I will not say that it's very easy to get into any specialty, but I will say that it's completely possible. So it is very easy to get into all non-surgical specialties, but for all surgical specialties, it's very competitive, it's very hard, but if you work
Mhm.
hard, you will make it.
Okay. Uh, Anything about the emergency medicine? If you have,
It is completely possible to make it. They need emergency medicine doctors.
okay,
It's
fair
easy to
enough.
get in.
Mhm. So yes, we have, I guess, discussed more or less everything.
Yeah,
I really enjoyed the session.
too.
Uh, but still, if any one of you has any question which you think we have missed and it is important for you to know, you have last couple of minutes. So,
We are still getting a lot of questions. So Saad, a husband and wife can work in the same city by applying for jobs in the same hospital. It's possible.
mhm, thank you so much for the valuable information, Dr. Naseer Khan, with the heart.
Thank you. The roadmap after passing PLAB-2 is you apply for GMC registration and then apply for non-training jobs.
Yeah, one question which has been constantly coming is, what about if someone has 364 days of internship?
That is not acceptable, sadly. So the GMC will not accept it.
So
So,
like, there is no chance at all.
so I guess then it becomes difficult. I don't know. I guess a few options are that you need to speak to the GMC and see what they suggest, but they will say either start a new internship and do a completely new internship, and they might or might not accept it. They might say that doing one more extra day of internship, that is kind of impossible.
No,
But
but
if it's, let's say, if it's 10 months of internship, then they might say do 2 more months, and then we'll think about giving you registration. There will be no
okay.
guarantee. Uh, so the other option would then be for these people to think of F1 training in the UK. But this is why it's very important to read the GMC acceptable criteria of internship and get a proper internship done, because
So
this time will not come back.
no, because I guess it is not just with NHS or GMC. Actually, more or less every country has a
Yes,
minimum requirement of a complete 1 year or 12 months internship.
yes,
So no way you can have 364 days. It might be 366, right? If it's a leap year or something like that.
yeah, yeah, that's right.
So mhm.
That's right.
Yeah, you spoke about the health insurance, right? Like if you live in UK, you don't have to pay anything for the medical treatment. So
That's right.
it's the same amount that goes from the taxes, or you have to pay something extra for the health insurance or things like that.
So it's taken from our salaries. It is called national insurance, NI.
Mhm.
Uh, but I've all the salaries that I've mentioned is after these deductions.
Fair enough. So again, thank you so much, Nasir.
No problem. I'm very happy that it was an interactive session. We got so many questions. Thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah, true. And I really appreciate that you have taken almost 2 hours out of your very hectic schedule, and I have been like disturbing you from past 2 weeks already. Uh, I'm looking for some more sessions in the near future.
Sure.
Yeah, love from Pakistan and love from India, love from Ukraine. So
Thank you,
thank you so
everyone.
much. I guess you're the most loved person in at least this UK USMLE thing.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. And thank you for arranging this. I know I've disturbed you a lot as well. But thank you for answering all the questions. And thank you
Oh,
to everyone in the
yeah.
audience as well for being here.
Sure. So, guys, if you actually like the session, just drop at least like 1 minute review on whatever Insta channel you want or the same WhatsApp number that you used for the registration. so that we can actually know that if it was really helpful for you or not. I would love to share the same response with Dr. Naseer Khan as well. And yes, we are going to put this session on YouTube on Inspiring Minds channel. And Dr. Naseer might also put it. Uh, we'll decide about it later on. So thank you so much for being here with us and listening everything so patiently. We really appreciate each one of you for taking some time out, and we hope that it matters and you really put in that effort to reach where you actually want to. So, Dr. Nasir, any closing words you want? And
I just want to thank everyone for being here. And I know everyone took a lot of time, um, but it was good. And if anyone still has any questions, you can always contact me and I'll be happy to answer. But my request is to always post questions on the Facebook group first, because that is the best way to find information. And again, thank you so much for being here.
one last thing which I want to mention is Dr. Nasir is actually one of the most humble person I have ever met, like in these 7, 8 years. He's always ready to answer whatever queries you have. Sometimes students do ask the same and the repeated questions, but I've never seen anyone like him who still answers the same questions again. So thank you so much, Dr. Nasir, for being like that, and hope to have many more sessions in the future. So we'll surely meet you again.
Thank you. Yeah, sure, Berlina. Thank you. Thanks.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Take care.
Bye bye. Thank you.
Bye. Bye.